G'day and welcome to Inforunners. I'm Execute, joined by Algared. How you doing, buddy?
I'm still ticking.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
So we did learn about if this episode came out, the patch for 3.23 would not be dropping this week, but it has dropped, as you can see. We also got a little bit of a sneak peek of the hover bikes in Arena Commander, and I was able to jump in with Expat and have a quick look at those. And they basically popped out just as Algared and I said they would be. So racer with a booster and a custom gun on the combat version, so to speak. So yeah.
Yeah, you were telling me about the custom gun. It almost feels like a laser Gatling gun.
Yeah.
And a fast-firing size 1 gun, which is basically what it's going to have, is not that bad for a little one-man bike.
And hopefully they can fit it in the X1. Looks like it might fit, hopefully. It would be good for 400i owners anyway, at the very least.
One thought on that is, if it's a really nice little gun on a one-person bike, does that mean it's upgunned? More upgunned than a Drake?
Might be. Not too sure. All right.
So, anyway.
Here we go.
Alpha 3.23 is just around the corner, and that means it's time for Patch Dispatch 3.23, where we run down all the new features and content included in what could be Star Citizen's biggest patch yet. So let's just jump right into things. And we'll start with life in the first person. And in 3.23, life begins with a newly expanded and revamped character customizer, letting you create more dynamic and representative avatars than ever before.
There's already a website for this, Algared, where people are doing like celebrity kind of camos and stuff. Some of them are better than others. I think the best one I saw was Cal Kestis, and you mentioned a Walter White one.
Yeah, I was sent the Walter White one to have a look at because they said, "Hey, look, we've done you." You know, basically.
Yeah, and sometimes I've looked at them and gone, "Yeah, not so much." So some of them are stretched, but again, if this is tier 0 of this, or you know, further improvements down the line, there are some quirky little things about it, but overall, it's a drastic improvement.
Yeah, the biggest quirky thing I find is you put your makeup on in this, but you can never put it on in game. So I'd have liked those cosmetic aspects that people do to be things you could actually apply and take, you know, put on off in game. I know that's weird. I know that's a luxury, but when you've got a
pretty sure you're hinting at a professional. Let's be honest. It's pretty obvious that that's probably what's going to happen down the line. So we'll see.
You'd hope so.
Yeah.
But even adjustability, you know, do I put my lipstick on that type of stuff.
Yeah, someone clipped that, by the way. Yeah. Anyway,
but you've got to admit this character generation tool is a lot of fun to play with. Yes. I know I've spent a couple of hours just playing around, just looking at the options and the choices.
Yeah. I think you also mentioned physics on beards. Like, this guy's got a really long beard. It'd be nice if some of the beards had physics as well, not just the hair. Obviously, there's some performance things there, whether it can work or not. But again, this all leads to like nice to haves, and are they going to improve it? And I think you can see just from a few little omissions that it's still got some work to go.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And all those nice to haves, and it's something I'm sure will keep cropping up. It's that balance between you can have it, but it's going to take this extra time, or
they do that a lot of stuff, don't they? They put it out.
Have it, but you're going to have that loss of performance, and it's that yin yang, isn't it?
Well, they put out things a lot and then get our feedback and improve. So yeah, I'm sure it's, you know, they've worked with it a lot now. They want to put it out and hear what we have to say. So yeah. All right.
A new beginning that will continue to evolve with additional features and options in subsequent patches. Now let's discuss all the major improvements that directly affect your character, starting with the new MobiGlas. Now, unlike Eobard Thawne, we finally killed the Flash.
Nice
as
Flash
the new
reference.
MobiGlas finally makes its in-universe debut with a revamped layout and new features like the Health and Contract Manager apps to help you stay alive and find work respectively. It also includes the long-awaited and hotly anticipated new Maps app, combining the new star map and interior map experience.
See, for me, Algared, this is really a lot of the groundwork for scanning. I think it's going to be, like I've been saying, it's that big thing that's missing from being able to bring scanning in.
Well, to get scanning to work properly, you needed star map to be where they want it to be. Otherwise, whatever they were doing on scanning was a waste of time because it all ties with the map.
Yeah, cut for the horse thing. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All right.
Experiences into one unified interface with an entire host of new functionalities designed to help you find your way through landing zones, space stations, and the entire verse as a whole.
It's also been improving from patch to patch as well, and I think that's across the board on this whole patch. Is you know, like previous patches, it was like once every 3 days type of thing. This one, you can tell there's more people working on it because there's a patch like every day, and there's little improvements that you notice across the board.
Every day you log in and go, update the VTU. Yep,
absolutely.
Oh, and that work also touches the new lens and visor updates with a great new mini map that appears now in the upper left corner.
I think that kind of highlights it there, Algared, that you've got to constantly look up on the upper left. So again, like we were saying, hopefully they look at this and improve it and allow you to have things actually in front of your character, not just
we've talked about this in the previous one where they talked about the map in the top corner, and we said, oh man, it'd be better if, good if you could do this or that. And I get frustrated. I keep getting my eyes drawn to that map, which is a frustration. But I also find when I've worked my visor, it makes sense. But when I've just got the little lens on, to have that map doesn't feel right. And it'd be nice to get that map up. I had to look at my MobiGlas and go, oh, yep, that's where I am, and then move.
Yeah.
But
Again,
I also feel this is
player choice though. Let you players customize what they see on their lens or their visor or whatever, so you can tailor what you see to yourself eventually. But again, I think they're kind of wanting a bit of feedback probably, and then they'll move from there. And again, obviously, leaving a trail on that in front of you might be a part of the scanning system. So a cart before the horse problem again. Yeah.
But I think part of it is also the fact that because we don't have our bodily senses to actually give us that information we'd normally be getting, we don't have our touch, we don't have our hearing. They're giving us that visual information, those visual cues, to actually make up for the information we can't pick up.
Yeah, what we're lacking.
So it's kind of that, again, it's that make up for, yes, it's more than you'd want or get, but it's making up for what you don't have.
Yeah. Again,
so that balance again.
If you got that player choice too, like if you take off your visor, so to speak, you might prefer it so it's completely empty, where someone else wants all the information. So
well, even with the visor, the ability to take it off might be something that people who are doing selfies or pictures or things want to be able to do as well. So
that's
it'd be interesting to see what Expat thinks on of the map being constantly in the corner of her screen.
Totally valid point.
Your days of not finding your way around are soon behind you. Unless you're a specific person who won't be named. You know who you are. Of course, when you're traveling through the verse, Alpha 323 has a whole new array of improvements to how you'll interact with the world around you, starting with a revamped player interaction system that's more nimble and customizable than ever before.
Yeah, see, this is night and day too, Algared, this system. I just can't. It doesn't work on everything yet, but the stuff it does work on, and I think the other combination of this, and he's probably going to talk about this in just a second, is the quick loot system. The combination of both of those is, again, we're getting a lot of systems coming in this patch, but it is a big change that it's just this quality of life we've needed for a while.
Well, I was just about to say it's this massive quality of life. This system itself, and just the looting system, is a massive quality of life change in terms of making the ease and quickness there. So yeah,
Absolutely.
Default item actions that let you keep your customizations exactly how you want them. A new shopping interface that streamlines the experience so you can get what you want and go. And new looting screens to improve your alternate and more violent shopping experience. And speaking of which, there's lots of new improvements to the way you bring first-person murder, death, kill to your fellow citizens in the verse, including scope magnification updates, ammo repooling and backpack reloading, ADS tuning, and the new dynamic crosshair on specialized helmets so you can fire straight from the hip in-game and not.
They all sound small, but again, it's a sum of its parts that's like across the way. And I don't think he's even mentioned sliding yet and things like that. They are all gonna, they're obviously Squadron 42 stuff, but again, it's just gonna bring everything up to that next level. This is the one thing I haven't been able to test properly, is a lot of the FPS stuff, because it can be difficult to get places when it crashes so frequently. Like I was with Piss-Poor Pete, I think, oh god, less than a week ago now, and we had like 5 or 6 server error swap between servers. That's been the biggest issue, is like it'll get in this cascade failure loop where it just reboots the server back into the same state, but the error is still there, so like less than a minute later it fails again. I will say though, that is lessening quite a bit, but then there are other bugs that makes the whole game crash. So
yeah, and that's the frustration of testing, isn't it? The number of times you'll crash to desktop or just.
Well, I can tell you right now, like we saw with 318, where I've said, this is probably the 10th time I've said it, but like really big streamers were just there complaining. I know Summit's been playing Star Citizen. I watched him yesterday, and it crashed on him as well. He got 30Ks and stuff like that, but he seemed to understand. Some people just don't understand because they see this as a finished game and they don't realize it's still being.
Well, at least when they're in a test environment, you know, they accept the test. Where when it's live, they go, oh, you know, people still forget that even the live game is in a sense it's still the alpha. It's
well, I think that's why we have the EPTU now and not just the PU, because I think they've gated it to keep the normies out, so to speak, a bit more than usual. So yeah, all right.
Just from the comfort of your YouTube comments. And your first-person life doesn't end there, because Alpha 323 allows you to take the fight to zero-G with the newly revamped EVA mechanics, changing the way you traverse the verse outside your spacecraft and vehicle. And speaking of your spacecraft or vehicles, the Alpha 323 season also includes new ways to house, load, and launch your ships with the new personal persistent hangars coming to ArcCorp, Hurston.
Do you notice how he said season? Like it's a TV show? Because it's coming in the next episode.
Yeah, well, it does feel a bit like a season, you know. So, I was just thinking of the EVA.
Yeah.
And I haven't done it yet, but I was thinking, man, I have to redo the Kovalek Station mission.
Yeah, it's one of the first ones I did. It's night and day. When I was looking at that, I was just realizing this is just a summary of everything they've talked about since the start of the year. Because that's the same footage, by the way. I've noticed that several times. They're just reusing old footage.
Yep.
Yeah. All right.
Microtech and Horizon in a 323X patch this quarter.
There we go.
Which also includes item banks to grab your stuff, vehicle platforms to raise your ships, and freight elevators.
One thing I will notice is, you know how ships used to appear and come down, Algared?
Yep.
They are now appearing and going up, or appearing and going down when you despawn them. So they've already got it in. They just need the physical elevators, so to speak.
Yeah, the elevator's just there, so it either comes, you know, spawns and then comes up, or goes down and then despawns. So,
Yeah.
so load them before takeoff. Of course,
mind you, I haven't actually physically seen it. It's just that you see the, you know, the marker to your ship, like it goes down and then disappears. Yeah.
once you take off, you'll find a new way to fly with master modes and a new way to fight with precision targeting and weapon mount and gimbal changes, meaning space combat's got its next evolution in Alpha 323. But what if flying in the PU isn't enough? Or you simply want a safe place to practice the changes? Well, there's a whole host of new maps and experimental modes in Arena Commander 323 that we covered here in detail just last week. Then back in the Persistent Universe and down planet side, you'll find the new distribution centers with a variety of mission and gameplay opportunities for
Probably the big gameplay change in this patch is all around the distribution centers, and I guess the Xenothreat Idris event are the two big ones. Everything else is just quality of life. But
yeah, my experience with those distribution centers at the moment is I get in and crash.
Yeah.
Get them, land, crash.
Yep.
So,
I've had the same problem. Especially if this is the main meat and potatoes of the gameplay. That's probably why it's taken an extra week. Let's be honest.
it probably is because like I found I get there and I actually haven't been able to walk around inside the distribution center yet.
A couple of streamers have managed to do that. Like I had problems though, like where I'd call for a hangar Algared and the ship would just go right through the floor of the hangar and stuff like that. So they definitely are not quite there yet.
The closest I got was getting off the ship and going to the lift.
Yep.
And falling through the floor.
Yep, I had a similar experience myself.
You know, that's the closest I've got to being inside the hangar, inside the distribution center. So, hey, but it's my frustration is I want to see it and I can't. But it's part of testing. So, yeah.
Yep.
all manner of playstyles and the added dangers of the American Copian, Star Citizen's first fauna being added to Alpha 323.
I don't really have much to say about those, but they, like, I start to wonder how often we're going to see more and more creatures come in, you know what I mean? Like, and it'll just become quite normal. I guess from my point of view is they must be so low network intensive that they aren't taking up the network bandwidth, like a more intellectual creature. I don't know how else to put that, but you know what I mean?
They're not in the cities, which already chew up a lot of bandwidth. So they're in the wilds.
Yep.
The environment doesn't. It can just be less, I suppose, more static, I suppose, rather, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
And in the monthly reports, talking about more creatures, I think the previous monthly report they talked about those two creatures and the space cows.
Yeah.
So that already hinted that there was.
Well, we've seen those in game in that video at CitizenCon and the space whales too. But I think again, network stuff. We'll see. All right.
I remember seeing people. Talking about the CitizenCon thing and to streamers, people who was just streaming it, and they says, "Oh, we've got everything, but these," and they're not coming for ages, and suddenly we've got animals coming in this patch, which is kind of, hey, it is coming. So, the positive.
How are the Merrics dangerous? Just wait until they add poop mechanics. Then there's also exciting new technological improvements like our initial implementation of Vulkan. New DLSS, FSR, TS.
This is where you're getting the big performance increase, but you're also getting more visual improvements, so it goes down. So it's kind of this weird balancing act.
I know on certainly racing and certainly doing the Crux Cup track at Orison, most people turn volumetric clouds off. A, so they can see the track and see where the points are easily, but B, because it causes lag and slows them down.
Yeah, it'll get there though. Again, every step forward, like, and sometimes you got to take a bit of a step back. Like, it's the first implementation, as they said, but I have no doubt as they get in, they'll get more and more improvements out of it.
Oh, even that just looks stunning, doesn't it?
Yep.
Just those
the clouds themselves actually look like bloody clouds now, not that point shit that we were getting before. Yeah, so yeah. All right.
Our upscaling. and the new water rendering and simulation tech that will make Star Citizen.
That's probably the biggest visual upgrade, though. The water.
Yep.
The water, like, it just looks so flat before, and now it's
No,
not,
you've got that
not
effect.
alive, but it looks moving.
And the way they changed, look, in the episode they talked about this in detail, the way they changed the way water was acting rather than just being an effect, but being kind of tied to a ship and kind of, yeah, go back and watch the episode.
Yeah.
But it was really interesting, and it was quite
Elaborate.
Quite elaborate the way they went about it, and it gives a visual effect up close, but it also gives that effect far away. So yeah.
Look even better than ever before. And then under the hood, with the new replication layer split in 3.23, players no longer connect directly to the game servers and instead to the hybrid service, which hosts the replication layer, which then itself maintains the state of the game. This now means that the loss of a server can...
It feels a lot more seamless now, doesn't it, Algared? It doesn't, like, yes, it might take up to a minute to drop across the game, and that may smooth over time, but it's just, other than when it does that repetitive crash thing, 30Ks are kind of going extinct, hopefully. Yeah. All right.
Be recovered from without the players being disconnected from the game or losing their progress, and sets the stage for multiple game servers sharing a single hybrid replication layer in the server mesh coming online with Alpha 4.0. So all in all, there's more things in Alpha 3.23 than you can shake a stick at, but there's actually even more, as this branch not only includes all the hangar and cargo improvements we discussed earlier, it also contains the next iteration of Invictus Launch Week, which is actually 2 weeks because we're all super extra here. And we'll introduce a handful of new ships and vehicles folks have been waiting for.
Wait, 2 weeks? Is that normal?
For Invictus?
Is that normal? No. I was going to say.
That's what he just said. It's 2 weeks now, not 1.
Son of a bitch, he's giving me more work. Great. Okay, well, at least I can spread it out now, though. Yeah.
Hopefully they're just spreading it out a little bit more.
Yeah. All right, here we go.
As well as one straight-to-flyable that's available with 3.23 launch. So let's learn more from John, Ben, and Alberto.
The Mirai Pulse is Mirai's entry into the ground gravlev bike category.
Is a new racing vehicle from Mirai. It kind of builds on some of their kind of core values as a brand of MISC, focusing more on performance. It takes a lot of inspiration, should we say, from the Razor, and really kind of shrinks that kind of thrill of speed down.
So the role of gravlev vehicles in the game, and especially hover bikes, it allows you to, you've got a mission in mind, perhaps you don't want to risk bringing your ship or larger vehicle right up to it. It allows you to park some distance away, out of radar range, out of line of sight, and then infiltrate stealthily.
That answers that question, Algared.
Oh, great minds think
speedily
alike.
towards the target location. And of course, as features like weather comes online and more diverse and hazardous biomes such as heavily dense forests, gravlev vehicles, bikes will become more useful as ways to get closer to your target without damaging ships. The Pulse is our smallest ground vehicle. It was a intentional design choice to make something as small and compact and as fast as possible, and Mirai as a brand sort of fits that performance ideology.
It needs to be small. It needs to be small, fast, agile, and really that just kind of gives us a much greater opportunity of how the players can really experience that sense of speed on one of our ground vehicles.
So the Pulse comes in 2 flavors. We've got the base version, which comes equipped with a custom laser Gatling on the front. And then you have the LX, which is the dedicated racing version. It loses that front weapon, replaces it with a big intake, you get extra thrusters, so out of all the Gravlev bikes, it is one of the most agile there. The reason it's so small and compact is we wanted it to have the most compatibility with all of our other vehicles in game. So by being compact, allows you to pretty much stuff it into every single other vehicle in existence in the game.
Size-wise, I think it's just over 2.5 meters in length, so it is tiny. To put that into some perspective, it's a tiny bit longer than...
Is this the official first ever Will It Fit video by CIG?
It does seem like it. I think they're literally saying we've made it so it can fit in anything. It looks like they're going to say it's even going to fit in a container.
Yeah. All right, here we go.
2 SCU of cargo, so it is very small.
I'm sure there will be 1 or 2 vehicles out there where it doesn't fit in, maybe such as the MPUV, but across the board it's designed to get in a lot of other vehicles. My favorite thing about the Pulse series is just the way we've integrated all the components together into that incredibly tight chassis.
We tried to kind of fuse the idea of a sports bike, but almost, I think they're called like naked bikes. So we wanted it to feel still quite aggressive and quite kind of chunky, almost like a bobber. But we kind of...
I'm going to have to run this past my brother because he's a big motorbike guy, and just to see what he thinks. I'll let you know tomorrow if I can. Yeah.
Really wanted that sleekness that Mirai and the brand as a whole kind of is known for. One of the, I guess, biggest kind of challenges that our like Alberto and the concept team really had to work on, which then turned our production artists and kind of gave them a few things to scratch their head against, is really fitting all of the ship items and the components into a vehicle of this size.
As we never did anything so small.
Sorry?
Just looking at the bike, even though it's a Gravlev bike, it still has that Kettlegrad look about it. That's that little tracked bike that the Germans had in World War II, with the tracked wheels at the back, all that shape, and then so it's certainly iconic. It certainly looks cute, and
it's a space Ducati, is what it is.
Yep.
Yeah, 100%. All right.
New problems come along. I decided to take the same approach of a motorbike. We tried to insert most of the components in what will be the fuel tank, and with this approach we kept the same shape, the same main shape of a motorbike. So we have very fluid and soft shapes, palindromal, which means that you can flip it and it looks kind of the same, and then we added the front part just to connect the semiotic of the racing vehicles to this one. We were really tight to the size because it can fit in a container, and that created a huge challenge with how the components move when you actually have to expose them. So that dictated actually the shape we ended up with, and I'm really happy with the final result because you couldn't say probably that inside such a small vehicle there are so many components.
Compared to our other Gravlev ground vehicles, the Pulse it trades durability for speed and agility, so compared to say like the Dragonfly and the Hoverquad, which are relatively tanky, not as good there.
The Nox is more tense and definitely bigger. Mirai tries to simplify things a bit, less is more. We tried to have a different approach compared to...
It's a compromise, is what
yeah,
they're describing.
I was thinking the way they said it's not as tanky as the others, but I was thinking, it's a Drake approach.
Well, it's definitely going to have an appeal though over other hover bikes. Now they've explained a lot of this, like it just fits in other things, and it's probably going to make it one of the most popular bikes. But again, you want to hope that all those hover bikes have a place, and it sounds like they've actually found a place for this one. And it's again, fitting in everything just means there's all these other places it can go that other bikes can't.
The fact that it fits in an Ursa, we saw it go in an Ursa, the fact that they shoved it into the entryway of an Aurora, the fact, all of those things that people do, they're saying, this will fit. The only thing that can't fit in is probably the MPUV, and that's because, well, it's the MPUV.
Well, they actually showed it in the MPUV, though, Algared.
I don't think they did.
Well, it literally had the MPUV, and they had 3 of them in the back.
I thought that. I didn't think that was the MPUV, but I obviously mislooked.
Oh,
but that's
one of the MPUs they had it in. But anyway, yeah, right.
most of racing vehicles and communicate speed through mass and not through aerodynamics, although we keep aerodynamics in consideration for this kind of stuff.
In terms of the Nox and the X1, it is right up there in speed and agility. So they all trade different speed attributes in terms of straight line speed, cornering speed, rotational velocities. And the bespoke weapon on the front of the base model is our first laser Gatling in the game.
In line with distribution centers, if you take this into a distribution center, massive advantage.
Well, I remember what I was saying about the fast gun and being really good as on a small ship. A fast-firing gun would be really good for clearing out.
Well, you see what I mean about the chain gun too. Yeah, it is quite fast.
The chain gun firing just means you can mow down people who are exposed, and well, they're showing us do that. And that was one thing I was wondering as we were talking the other day, and now they're showing it, doing it. So, yeah.
We're looking forward to see how that performs.
There is a weird thing with the aiming though. It needs like a I don't know, when you test it yourself, Algared, see what I mean? Like it's very straight firing and you can't always like just rotate the bike to get it on point. It needs a more gimbally thing to it so you can kind of aim with it. Again, that they'll probably look at it as they go past everything. But yeah, there's something
Maybe they're not going to give it that. Maybe the bike is the gimbal.
Yep.
Which is why what makes it bespoke to the bike as well. It's like a part of the hardware.
You've kind of got to aim by kind of like pressing control in space to kind of go up and like to get on your target. You'll see what I mean when you try it yourself.
So that's the Pulse coming online in 3.23. 2 variants of it. Looking forward to seeing all the different scenarios you're going to get it into.
Did I say it's small? It's really, really small. And goes really, really fast.
Okay, that's good.
See the memes coming.
So what did we learn this week? Well, hopefully we were reminded of all the great work the combined Star Citizen and Squadron 42 teams have been working on that make their way to the persistent universe in Alpha 3.23. That like any and every other feature in Star Citizen, the work doesn't stop here and will continue to iterate and evolve in subsequent releases. And that the Mirai Pulse is this teeny tiny hover bite that can fit into all sorts of places and may just be John Griffith's and James Kay's worst nightmares when players try to squeeze them deep down into the distribution centers.
Just real quick, see those med pens that are kind of like just behind your head? Yeah. On Twitter, everyone at CIG was given one of those, and it's actual working pen, like a writing pen.
That's
pretty cool, huh? Yeah.
For Inside Star Citizen, I'm Jared Huckabee.
Oh, hang on.
Thanks for letting us share the process of game development with you, and we'll see you all here next week.
All right, what'd you say?
I wonder if those pens are going to be some of the merch they put into the Citizen.
Could be. Good test bed, wouldn't it? Give everyone to the staff, make sure they work, and yeah. All right. Yeah, I don't really have much to add to that. It was really kind of like most of it was just a reliving of what we've seen this season previously on Inside Star Citizen.
Inside Star Citizen.
Yeah.
It was a nice summary episode of what we've seen.
Well, you see that in normal TV shows, don't you? They do that remembrance episode or the summry episode where they go back and go, remember that time? Yeah, it was a bit like that. But the bike, you know, a lot of people were very dismissive. It's another hover bike. But my first thought was, yes, it is another hover bike. I was much the same.
Well, I like that we asked the question, will it fit in a 400i? And that was the very first thing we saw it in.
Yeah, that was what I was going to say. Is but as long as it's got a place that differentiates it enough from the others. The other thing, I think the most disturbing thing for me about the bikes is there's almost always a racing variant. Yeah. You know, and I think not every vehicle that comes out needs to have a racing variant. You know, again, Mirai, yes. But like some of the other manufacturers, well, I don't know. I'd have to sit there and actually count them. But I think that at this point, there's at least 3 or 4 racing variants of bikes. But that's probably You know, you need a minimum of 3, I think. But we'll see. Maybe I'm being pedantic, but yeah, obviously
I do like the fact that also it being Mirai does mean they can make it smaller.
Yeah.
Like, I know it sounds counterintuitive, but it's used. They're drawing on the Xeon tech. Xeon tech tends to be more compact.
Well,
that's one of the advantages of using Xeon tech. It takes up less space.
Yeah, well, that's what I'll ask in the comments then. Like, can you guys actually see a place for this thing? Because being so small, as they put it, yeah, I think it's got a massive advantage that other bikes don't have. But obviously, it's a compromise. You know, at the end of the day, like, how much stronger can a bike be than another bike? You know, like, again, it's an A to B vehicle, and I kind of look at this a little bit like the STAR-Runners. If you've got speed on your side and you're tiny, it makes you even harder to hit. So you're not, you're going basically essentially full offense and giving away the offense. Like, I do not see this, like, for example, the, I'm going to butcher the name but the X1 with a gun on it, right? That has the shield. I do not see this thing going toe to toe with that combat-wise because it's got the shield. It's just got a massive advantage over this. But can you dodge and weave enough? That's why I kind of said it needs a better aiming gimbal, because if you can get it to aim better and you can out dodge your opponent, then maybe it does stand a chance against like an X1. But again, until we get more towards release, we're not going to know these things, because it's all numbers that you can change, right? You know, but they're the questions I start to think of, Algared, as I'm sure you do too.
I think part of it is also it gives players choice.
Definitely.
There's such a plethora of bikes out there now. There's probably a bike for every situation.
I still want a suitcase bike. I think that'd be amazing. You know, you just fold out the suitcase and you get on it and...
Oh, yep.
Yeah.
Well, you remember the very first time we saw the Dragonfly?
Yep.
It was in the back of the damaged staff area, and you got the case and you press the button and it opened up into the...
Well, it was meant to originally... The original concept was meant to be like an Iron Man suit that you put on, and it changed into an actual bike over time. But yeah, what would you like to hear from people in the comments below, Algared?
Well, what things are you looking forward to in 3.23? Do you like the idea of the map always being in your top right corner? Do you wish there was a way to turn it off?
Yeah.
Are we just blowing smoke up people's rear, or are we just drinking too much copium? Or
I'm trying to look for a positive spin on this thing. Like, it is an LTI token at the end of the day. You and I, you know, you and I will look at it and review it and stuff. But as I always said, you've got to find a reason for something to exist, and I feel like they've kind of justified it in the size. It sounds like a small thing, but it is. Like, it works. It gives it a reason to exist. Anyway, all right. With that, then, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. And thank you to everyone that went that extra mile on Patreon at the end of the video. Right, with that, then, he's been Algared.
He's been Execute, and we're out of here. Take care.
See you, citizens.